Good afternoon, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. Today we're at property address 120 Condoleezza Drive here in Lake Oswego. Describe this as if you're standing out here in kind of the walk. Let me orient my camera here, sorry. There's your front doorway, the double doors. So as if you're standing out here facing the front of the house. So we're about 10 feet, it's probably more like 15 feet to the left of the front door, about 4 feet in from the front left corner here. We've got a 4-inch cast iron clean out. We're going to check the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. Water is running. We're going to zero the foot counter out at the base of the clean out. And off we go. Well, it's fun clean out, so it doesn't want to send you the right direction here. There we go. I've got a spot here with some standing water in the line. We'll take a second look at that on the way out, see what's going on there, if it's just purely a gradation issue. Sometimes you get out the end of this thing, you realize you got a big bunch of wipes stuck in the line hanging things up. Got some standing water in the line here for the last little bit. We've also got some buildup in the flow line. Sometimes the standing water happens when you are pushing debris in front of the camera, so we'll see which it appears to be here in just a minute. And at what point this thing converts over to being not your sole line, I'm unsure of, because right here we're coming up on a spot where a tie-in comes into the sewer line. Most likely that's another home connecting in there, which is to be expected on this style of home here, condominiums. It's very rare to not have a shared sewer line in this type of house. And so typically speaking, this kind of home is often under HOA responsibility. Looks like we're doing a vertical drop here now. Going straight down. And so at a point here, I'm just going to go ahead and stop running the camera. Some of these lines are just daisy chain. They just keep going and going and going for sometimes hundreds of feet. All right, and we're hitting the base of that drop right there. That's going to probably do us in here. Let's see if we can, yeah. We're going to call that good there. At this point, we've already gone past at least one other home, possibly more than that. We'll get a better view of that as we come out here. Alrighty, so I just did a locate there. It's a really tricky spot where I'm trying to locate. My camera's at the base of a really hard dive, but where I'm picking up the camera up roughly right now. Again, if you're standing facing the front door, the line is shooting across the front of the building to the right. We're about we're just about in front of another unit's front door, one unit over to the right of this. But we've got a lot of water still coming to the line. We've got all the water turned off in this house now for a few minutes, so the water here very likely is coming from another unit. and being that they're interconnected lines like this, and sometimes they're from time to time they'll actually go under each other's floors. I'm not sure if that's what's going on here necessarily. But that tie-in right there we just went past, that looks like another home connecting in there. Where that's located, there's really no good reason to have a clean-out access there, and that's to be expected on this type of house. So on these ones, you have almost no chance of getting to the main with this type of configuration without going through, well, sometimes 5 or 10 different clean-outs. So you've got some standing water that starts to, and granted we still have some water running, so it's going to be exaggerating the standing water to some extent, but it's somewhere around 34, 35 feet here where it starts to dissipate off. Yeah, heading right across towards the unit to the right of this one, just adjacent to the walkway. And you know, I think we had some increase in water volume there actually, because it looked like we were coming back into standing water, but it's dissipated off. And water's still flowing into the line right now.
Thank you for coming to say hi. Bye-bye. Thanks.
So right now we're getting almost to the point of being drained out. I can tell there's a little bit still trickling to the line. But from about 22 feet to somewhere around 30 feet, you're holding steady. But you can see how we still have water going to the line right now from somewhere. If you got this thing completely drained out, what you're left over with is probably closer to, somewhere between 1/4 and 1/2 of an inch of standing water, depending on where you're at. But right now the water line's actually down below the camera lens. There's only one spot in here where I'm seeing the water depth dip down below that. It's right about in here. Now that we've got this thing almost entirely drained out there, I can tell you got a solid, it's about 1/4 inch or so of standing water. It's somewhere between 1/4 and 1/2 inch, but definitely not 1/2 inch. The bottom of my camera lens sits about 1/4 inch off the bottom of the pipe. So the line here is running a little bit flat. It's not an outrageous amount of standing water. There's very little debris buildup to speak of in here. I'm not seeing any blockage evidence. Standing water like this in cast iron, I mean, it has the potential to cause flow issues. This is more significant standing water in here, though. This is getting upwards to about an inch or so. That's more substantial. And that piece of pipe right there actually looks like it was repaired. Hold on here a second. It might be because my light's not passing through all the way. It dips under the water here. It's so murky it's hard to tell. That almost has the appearance of black pipe up ahead there. It's really hard to tell once we get into this water. And you do have some sediment in there, but there's no real thick debris buildup. But you're working with the better part here of about 2 inches of standing water. And when you start getting close proximity into the home, that's where standing water becomes more concerning. When you start getting a good distance from the house, often, I mean, assuming you're putting proper items down your line, a lot of times the head pressure breaks things loose before it can ever get back to the house. When you're this close to the home, though, a little bit different story. So the standing water up ahead beyond this, where it gets down to about 1/4 inch, you can see the difference in how debris is collecting in the line. It's considerably more is hanging up here in this location. Yeah, that spot there may just be really murky. I'm giving the appearance, it almost looks like ABS plastic, but when I look at it a little bit closer here, I think it's just the way that the pipe has been gunked up, but it's possible this has been spot repaired. at some point in the past, either roots or something like that, which could potentially happen here. There's a lot of foliage this line travels around. So you'll have to consult with a repair company. Once you pop out of the standing water here, you're right back into minor standing water. So you'll have to see if that is repairable. When you go from a significant belly to a minor belly, in a lot of cases, I mean, it almost completely drains off for just a moment there, for maybe 6 inches of pipe, and then you're right back into it. You'll have to consult a repair company to see how much improvement they can make. When you're connecting onto a piece of pipe that's out of grade, even if it's not a significant amount that's out of grade, sometimes all you can do is make an improvement and not a full correction. I almost get a gander at this pipe right here. Yeah, I just don't get a good enough view to see what the pipe material is. It might be ABS. When I pull back on the left side there, it almost looks like black plastic just for a second until the water fills back in. And if it is a spot repair, I'm not as surprised that it's settled. And especially if you've got pipe that's out of grade that it's attached to, your grade is only going to be as good as whatever you're connecting onto. It looks like for the most part it drains off there for a moment. So you might be able to fully correct that belly. You might only get an improvement. But there's enough standing water there, it has the potential to cause a problem. You're getting debris hanging up in the line there. All right, this is kind of a hard line to put markings down. There's so many bushes and things in here. I can mark the start of this spot, but where we're stopping here is directly under a big green bush that's just to the left of the walkway that's directly in front of the front door. Yeah, that looks like ABS there. I think this got spot repaired. My guess is there was probably a root intrusion at one point. Yep, now you can finally get a better view. I think I've sloshed enough water and junk out of the pipe there that it's finally drained off better. That does appear to be ABS plastic there. So, which also makes that belly, to be honest with you, less concerning. It's less likely to block and back up on you because it's smooth plastic pipe. You see the roughness difference between cast iron. It's got a very rough texture to it naturally because of the rust layer that develops inside of it and just because of its age. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and reel out here. I'm still going to recommend a spot repair. That location there, between about 5 and about 15 feet, you've got a 10-foot long belly and it's holding 2 inches or so of standing water. I don't think you have 3 inches. I can tell that the camera can potentially pop out of the water, but when I jerk back the camera quickly, that water line isn't really pulling down below my camera lens. Years ago, the trick I learned to try and help gauge the depth of water, when you have 2 inches or less of standing water approximately, when you pull the camera back really quickly, the water line will pull down below the camera lens. Anything more than 2 inches, when you reel the camera back fast, that won't happen. You'll remain submerged. So 2 inches of standing water for 10 feet just outside the house does have the potential to cause a blockage. You're doing better being that it's plastic pipe. You don't have the same issues that you would in cast iron. The standing water is always going to slow things down and hang things up. When you couple that with really rough pipe materials like cast iron that like to snag things already, it's a combination where debris can get stuck fairly easily. In plastic pipe, it doesn't happen quite as easily, but you're clearly getting debris hanging up there. So you have the potential for that to occur. You're around 3 feet 4 inches deep at the start. It's hard to locate, but you're going to be about the exact same depth at each end of this thing. It's a belly, that's just how it goes. I'm getting about 3'2" to 3'4" inches deep right where the belly starts at. So I'd recommend a spot repair there. The only reason I would recommend any repairs beyond that point is if in order to attain grade, they've got to take up more pipe and chase the grade out further, and sometimes that is the case. So without doing that, to be honest, you may only get an improvement. You may be going from 2 inches of standing water down to a 1/2 inch, which is a marked improvement. Don't get me wrong, but you shouldn't expect to get a complete correction unless you're overdoing it. A lot of times when you've got like a 15 or a 10-foot belly like that, sometimes you're having to chase that grade out for another 10, 20, 30 feet in order to attain complete grade again. So just be aware of that. That may be the case. But if you were able to reduce that from 2 inches down to a 1/2 inch of standing water or what have you, that's obviously a huge improvement. So after any repairs are done, make sure the line is rescoped to check the work. It's important to do that. You've obviously got some minor quarter-inch water beyond that point. That stuff I'm not concerned about. You're not getting buildup in that area, and that's the part of the line there where that may need to be corrected in order to fix the more significant belly behind it. Otherwise, all the pipe here appears to be intact, even the bellied pipe. I don't see anything broken. As the line sits, it is a functioning sewer line, but it is certainly draining slower than it should. It's not blocked up right now, but it's that slower drain that can cause buildup and blockages to occur. If no repairs are done, it would be a good idea to do a periodic hydrojet on this thing, probably once every 1 to 2 years. You'd want to get a rescope on this thing in about a year to get a baseline for how it's handling your living habits, and then you can kind of pick and choose how frequently to do your cleanings. The big thing is making sure that the only thing going down this is toilet paper, folded toilet paper, no flushable wipes, wipes in general, you know, cooking oil, grease, stuff that's going to build up in there and stay there and not disintegrate on its own. Otherwise, out to about 63 feet there, which again gets beyond at least one other tie-in. At that point, you're a fully shared line. Everything's flowing well. I don't see any signs of any significant flow issues ahead. But to scope any further, we'd have to start moving to a whole bunch of different cleanouts to do that, which really doesn't make sense on a line like this that's shared.